I'm diving, trying to get this first down at any cost, right? You're not kind of saying, all right, I don't want to get hit, so I'm just going to go down, right? Two different sentiments with that. So I thought, what D'Amico Ryans said, a lot of people probably criticize it, but I thought there was some truth into what he was bringing up when he was talking about, the whole instance and, bringing it to a macro sort of point of view. So I thought that was interesting, but this hit was definitely pretty unique in that way. So I think 3 games was pretty fair from the NFL. But let me know what you guys think of this suspension. Do you guys think it was fair, or do you guys have a different viewpoint on it? Let me know in the comment section of any of the videos. But we are going to move on from that now and go into recapping more of the games. We're going to look at the Falcons and the Chargers game. A 4-interception performance from Kirk Cousins has risen up some doubts about Kirk Cousins. Maybe you're looking at Michael Penix a little bit, looking a little bit more intriguing, maybe to start. We're going to talk about all of that and just break down the game and what we saw from Kirk's performance as well as the Chargers when we return after this break.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network, available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Jumping back into the action now on the Chip Shot Football Podcast here, looking at more of the games from the weekend. I wanted to bring up the Chargers and the Falcons game because of not only the result, obviously, which was important for both of these teams, but obviously the performance of Kirk Cousins in this game, which was pretty alarming, right? You could say. Overall, the Falcons, for the 4th time this season, they faced an AFC team, and they still have no wins when they do play an AFC team, right? You look at the Chiefs, they lost that one. They lost to the Steelers. They lost to the Chargers now, obviously. And there is one more team in there that I am forgetting. It's the Steelers, it's the Chiefs, and it's also the Broncos. They got beat up pretty well by the Broncos. That's 4 teams from the AFC that the Falcons have had an opportunity to get a win from those results, but obviously haven't been able to do that. And the Chargers are just the latest example of that, right? They ended up losing 17-13 in this game. The loss is the 3rd straight loss for Atlanta in their recent games, and they now sit at 6-6 as an overall record, which may not seem awful because they are technically still in first place in their division, but when you combine it with the fact that the Buccaneers just won over the Carolina Panthers, and now the Bucs are back in contention for the division as well, also with a 6-6 record. The Falcons messed around a little bit. They lost, a few of these games in a row, and they've allowed the Buccaneers to have a good chance at winning this division, and even potentially missing out on the playoffs altogether, because the way the wild card looks right now in the NFC, if you don't have like an actual good record, you're probably not going to get in on the NFC side, because you look at where everything stands right now, the Falcons are the 4 seed, just solely on the fact that they're leading their division, right? But if the Buccaneers overtake them, the Vikings are 10-2, the Packers are 9-3, and the Commanders are 8-5. So you are close with the Commanders, but if you lose another game, that's 4 games in a row you've lost, and you're kind of trending in the wrong direction at that point. So it's a tricky spot right now where the Falcons sit, but On the other side of things, the Chargers improved to 8-4. They rebound from the loss they had to the Baltimore Ravens last Monday night, and with a win and the fact that Baltimore also lost, the Chargers now jump back into the 5th spot in the playoffs, and Baltimore goes back down to the 6th seed, which is obviously important based on the matchups, right? The Ravens right now would be playing the Steelers, and the Chargers would be playing the Texans, and based on how the Texans have looked, that is probably a more favorable matchup. So obviously those matchups matter there, but the story with this game really was the Chargers defense coming up with 4 interceptions and really coming to the rescue of the team overall, because they were able to intercept Kirk Cousins 4 times in this game, and it really just wasn't all about like the Chargers defense and making these outstanding plays to get interceptions. A lot of these interceptions really didn't look great from Kirk Cousins, so there is that part of them actually catching it, right? It's a lot easier said than done, but again, Kirk and some of the decision making leaves you with a lot of worry, like I'm sure it does to a lot of Atlanta Falcons fans that have watched the games recently. So based on that performance, it was only the second 4 interception performance of Kirk Cousins' career. The other one was about 10 years ago when he was still in the Commanders and they were playing the New York Giants. And it hurts even more because of the fact that the Chargers offense only managed to have 9 points from 3 field goals they were able to get on the actual offensive side of the ball. The other points that they got was really only a pick 6 that they were able to get from their defense, obviously, right? Coming from one of the interceptions that Kirk Cousins threw. So other than that, the offense only scored 9 points. And especially with this defense that the Falcons have week in and week out, it hasn't been one of the top units. So whenever you can get a performance like this and hold the other team's opposing, offense to below 10 points, you think that you're almost going to win that game 10 times out of 10 times. So it hurts even more because of that reason, right? That you threw away a pretty good performance from your defense that was able to sack Justin Herbert, I believe, 5 times. Yeah, they sacked Justin Herbert 5 times in this game, and they were last in the NFL coming into this game with only recording 10 sacks on the year. And the fact that you got 5, half of what you got all season, and still lost, it's a very demoralizing loss. I think even more than the Broncos loss, because they got pretty beat up by the Broncos, losing by over 30 points or something like that, or 20 points. It looks worse, but I think this one was a lot worse because your defense played very well, and that's not something that they've done all year. And the fact that you still lost and you didn't take advantage of it, I think hurts a lot more. But overall in the game, we mentioned Kirk Cousins. He had those 4 interceptions. He threw for 245 yards, but no passing touchdowns. He was only sacked 1 time too, so it's not like he was, fighting for his life back there. A lot of the times he looked just panicked a little bit, and the lack of mobility, all of that sort of conversation starts to be brought back in. And also, Bijan Robinson had a nice day, 102 rushing yards and a touchdown. Drake London had 86 yards. Ray McLeod had 95 receiving yards. And Bijan contributed also with 33 receiving yards as well. Whereas the Chargers, we talked about their offensive performance and how it wasn't too promising. Justin Herbert only finished with 147 yards, and they really didn't get anything from their running game because J.K. Dobbins is out for the next, 3 or 4 weeks, and Gus Edwards was their leading rusher with only 32. Again, they somehow